Hey guys, this is your host Thomas Tyree here from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this will be episode 225 for you guys today. And to kick off this week's episode, I'll be sharing my NFL Week 2 summary from the games that stood out to me, the term of events that we're learning from NFL teams after the first 2 weeks of football, some key injuries at the quarterback position. I'll be covering all of that in the opening segment for today's episode. So, a team that I've learned about a lot for the first 2 weeks of football, that would be the Green Bay Packers. Are the Green Bay Packers the best team in football after 2 weeks of NFL action? I do believe the Packers are the best team in the NFL. I do believe after the first 2 weeks of football, the Packers are the best team in football. And they're 2-0. They have two quality wins against two NFC heavyweight contenders and the Detroit Lions and the Washington Commanders that went on to be playoff teams last year. The Lions winning 15 games and the Washington Commanders were just in the NFC Championship game. And they got two quality wins against these two respective teams, and both of these wins were double-digit victories. So that's pretty impressive. And the Packers, they played pretty well on both sides of the ball in the first 2 weeks of football. Offense is getting it done with their young quarterback, Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs running the football at the running back position. They got a young receiving core with talented receivers. Jayden Reed, well, now Jayden Reed's going to be sidelined for quite some time after that collarbone injury. But he showed up to play the first 2 weeks of football. Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden, Tyler Kraft at the tight end position. Then we look at this defense. I mean, this pass rush looks pretty elite with the addition of Micah Parsons. They had Jared Goff and Jaden Daniels under a lot of stress and a lot of pressure under the first 2 weeks of the NFL season. They sacked Jared Goff 4 times in the opener that they played against the Lions at home. Then they sacked Jaden Daniels 4 times last week in the victory at home against the Commanders. And they hit Jaden Daniels 12 times in that victory Thursday night against the Commanders. If they could keep this up, they're going to build some confidence because they play the Browns respectfully this week. Then they go on the road to that Sunday night football game to Dallas to play the Dallas Cowboys. So if you're a Packers fan right now, life is great. You're heading in the right direction, 2-0, could possibly be 4-0 by the end of week 4. So we'll see how the Green Bay Packers continue to look, but I think right now they have proven why they've been the best team in football. Hands down, AFC or NFC conference. Now, game of the week. The Dallas Cowboys defeated the New York Giants by a score of 40-37 in overtime. This was an outstanding game. Whether you hate or love the Dallas Cowboys, me being a Dallas Cowboys fan, this was clearly game of the week between the Cowboys and the Giants. A lot of people really thought the Cowboys were going to steamroll the New York Giants based off of their losing efforts that they had on banner night against the Philadelphia Eagles on the road. But the New York Giants came to play. It was a good back and forth quarterback duel between Dak Prescott and Russell Wilson. They were both doing back and forth for all 5 quarters of this game, especially Russell Wilson. He torched the Dallas Cowboys secondary. Even though they didn't have DaRon Bland, there's no damn excuses that Trayvon Diggs and several others were looking like burnt toast out there in the secondary. I mean, Russell Wilson had his best game up to date for years. 450 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. And then the second half was just crazy. I mean, the Cowboys and Giants scored a combined total of 41 points in the fourth quarter. I was on the edge of my seat. I was at the point I was standing up in front of the TV praying that we defeat the Giants. I did not want to start off the season 0-2, but Dak Prescott, it looked like he had that game-winning drive, the game-winning touchdown pass to George Pickens, only for Russell Wilson to go down the field and throw that deep bomb touchdown pass to Malik Nabers. With 25 seconds left, Brandon Aubrey got the chance to help the Cowboys extend the game into overtime, hitting a 64-yard field goal. And then they played for the whole entire duration of 10 minutes in overtime. I mean, Russell Wilson threw that costly interception to Donovan Wilson, and we cleaned it up, and we went down the field and scored the game-winning field goal. 46-yarder, I do believe. But hats off to the Giants. And I know me and my co-host Rob Sarasuzlo were texting back and forth about this game, but this was an epic game between the Cowboys and the Giants. Game of the week. And I'm very fortunate that the Cowboys did escape against a NFC East foe in the New York Giants with a victory rather than starting off the season 0-2. But tremendous effort by both the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants to give us game of the week for game 2. Now, this one's a surprising headline for this segment, but it's a headline and it's a part of the segment. Daniel Jones has helped the Indianapolis Colts start off 2-0. I must say, I am very impressed with what Daniel Jones has given us in the first 2 weeks of the NFL season. It's very early, but Daniel Jones has looked really good with the Indianapolis Colts. He's helped them start off to a 2-0 start. And he's playing well at the quarterback position. He has 588 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. That doesn't really pass the eye test for a lot of people that like to stat watch, especially at the quarterback position, because he has one of the best running backs in the league in Jonathan Taylor, scoring touchdowns and helping the Colts offense. But he does have a QBR of 80.8. So Daniel Jones has looked impressive, and he's playing with a good offensive line in Indy that can block for him. He's surrounded by several weapons. I mean, they got Josh Taylor at running back, Michael Pittman Jr. at receiver, Josh Downs, the rookie wide receiver, Alex Pierce, a wide receiver that's pretty good in the slot. You have Tyler Warren, rookie tight end from Penn State. The defense has played up the part. But I think Daniel Jones really surprised me the way how he put it on against a really good Denver Broncos defense. Shane Steichen is a good offensive play caller, and honestly, he might have made the right call starting Daniel Jones over Anthony Richardson all along. So, great start for Daniel Jones for the NFL season. Very surprised, but him and the Indianapolis Colts look really good. Off to an impressive 2-0 start. Now, let's get into the quarterback injuries. So, we got 3 quarterbacks that got injured during week 2. Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, and J.J. McCarthy. So, starting off with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow suffered a grade 3 turf toe injury that will require surgery and sideline Joe Burrow up for the next 2 to 3 months. Oof. That's a big blow for the Bengals. Now, honestly, that sucks being an NFL fan, watching Joe Burrow, who is a top 5 talent at the quarterback position. But seeing Joe Burrow out this early on in the NFL season, it sucks. And I know it sucks for Bengals fans out there losing their franchise quarterback this early in the NFL season. And this is not something that they're just now seeing for the first time. Unfortunately, Joe Burrow has suffered a lot of injuries since debuting to the NFL. Now the AFC North is just going to come down to a 2-team race at this point, respectfully, between the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I hate to say it, as talented as a quarterback Joe Burrow is, the injuries they're starting to take a toll on him. And I'm not saying his body is fragile or anything, because I have no experience playing at the NFL level. I believe that Joe Burrow is one big injury away from pulling an Andrew Luck, retiring in the prime of his career and walking away from the game of football. And Joe Burrow might not have that mentality or think the way that Andrew Luck did, but guys, this guy has taken a lot of punishment over the years since being the starting quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow and Andrew Luck have a comparison as well. They played behind some bad offensive lines. Joe Burrow has already been sacked 201 times in his young NFL career. Burrow has already gotten his big-time contract, and he's suffered a lot through the injuries. He's torn his ACL, MCL, PCL, torn wrist ligament, and now a torn toe ligament. Guys, it's either he's going to have to request a trade out of Cincinnati because the offensive line cannot protect him to save his life because he's taking so much punishment, or he's just going to have to walk away from the game of football. Because at this point, Joe Burrow's not even 30, and he's taking hit after hit after hit. Guys, this could be Joe Burrow's 3rd career season-ending injury. Because if the Bengals don't stay afloat, what's the point of throwing Joe Burrow back out there in December when they are not a playoff contending team? It's the reality of it. I love watching me some Joe Shiesty, him, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins every Sunday when they play offense, but it's a reality I think we're going to have to think about when it's all said and done. If he suffers one more big injury, might want to think twice about his NFL career. Now, for Jaden Daniels, he suffered a sprained knee injury in a loss Thursday night against Green Bay Packers. I would let Jaden Daniels sit out week 3 and recover from the sprained knee injury. The play, I think this game is very winnable when the Commanders play against the Las Vegas Raiders, who did not look good last night with Geno Smith throwing 3 interceptions. And I think it's a winnable game for Marcus Mariota. Why have your quarterback out there to possibly risk the injury of a sprained knee injury, possibly get him hurt, when you have a really good backup in Marcus Mariota that is very capable of defeating the Las Vegas Raiders right now. This version of the Raiders. So I would rest Jayden Daniels, let him get a week of recovery. Let Marcus Mariota get the start against the Raiders. At best, you get the win. Then the following week, you let your franchise quarterback Jayden Daniels get back in the lineup. Ooh, and J.J. McCarthy suffered an ankle injury. Could be sidelined for the next 2 to 4 weeks. I think this is best for J.J. McCarthy. This injury. And I'm not saying that it's great that he got injured. Hear me out. What I mean by that is I think this is best for J.J. McCarthy to sit out and recover from this ankle injury, because the NFL game looks too fast for him early on in his first 2 NFL starts. Now, from the film that we have of J.J. McCarthy in his first 8 NFL quarters that he's been the franchise quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, only the 4th quarter of that Chicago Bears game, he's looked good out of his first 8 quarters that he's played with the Minnesota Vikings as a starter. And yes, he did help the Bears, help the Vikings come back against the Bears in that Monday night game in Week 1. But that whole film against the Atlanta Falcons was really bad to watch. It was a bad game, and really, I felt so bad for J.J. McCarthy struggling because he's got offensive weapons around him, but he just can't put it together altogether just yet. So he has not seen any elite defenses yet, which is alarming to me. The Bears defense is nowhere close to elite. The Falcons, you could say they're in the middle, but they're not an elite defense. 301 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions with a QBR of 20.3 is unacceptable as a starter in your first 2 starts, with having one of the best receivers in the game, one of the best offensive play callers in the game, a really good tight end, TJ Hockenson, really good offensive line. If the quarterback whisperer, Kevin O'Connell, can help Carson Wentz look good until J.J. McCarthy gets back, we could have an uncomfortable conversation of what to do with J.J. McCarthy if Carson Wentz gets the Minnesota Vikings looking good and he collects some wins in the win column. So J.J. McCarthy, this could be best for him. Take some time to recover from this ankle injury. 2 to 4 weeks is a return estimated time. But this could be best for him to recover from and see it from a different perspective, because the NFL game just looks too fast for him. But I got a wild stat for you guys, though. Carson Wentz will start for his 6th team in 6 seasons. No quarterback in NFL history has done that. Carson Wentz started, I think, 12 games for the Eagles in 2020, started for the Indianapolis Colts in 2021, started for the Commanders in 2022, started for the Rams in 2023, started for the Chiefs in their finale game against the Broncos in 2024. Now will start for J.J. McCarthy for the Minnesota Vikings in 2025. That is actually crazy. The journeyman, Carson Wentz. Final game that I'll cover in the segment. The Monday night game that we saw, the first Monday night game that we saw last night between the Bucs and the Texans. The Bucs defeated the Texans by a score of 20-19. Now, this was one of my favorite games from Week 1. It would be my favorite game if it wasn't for that thrilling game between the Cowboys and the Giants, that shootout. But this game between the Bucs and the Texans was a really good classic football matchup that, yes, defenses played a part. 2 caliber teams, 2 of the best teams, in my opinion, from their respective divisions in the AFC and NFC South. It was a good game, a good defensive game, good wide receiver and cornerback matchup of Mike Evans, a future Hall of Famer, against one of the best young, talented cornerbacks in the game, Derek Stingley Jr., who had his way on Mike Evans, basically had him on seatbelts, straps last night. But both defensive lines came to play. They were creating pressure, causing disruption in the pocket for Baker Mayfield and C.J. Stroud. Both respective units got their respective sacks and got their pressures on as the game went on. But this game had a mix of everything. I mean, you had the block punts, you had the turnovers. And yeah, everybody loves offensive coaches, but can we give our flowers to the 2 defensive coaches that coached this game yesterday, and DeMeco Ryans and Todd Bowles for the Bucs? I mean, Baker Mayfield had 2, and shout out to Baker Mayfield because he had 2 back-to-back game-winning drives. Week 1 against the Falcons, then Week 2 last night against the Texans. But it was actually Baker Mayfield that returned the favor to C.J. Stroud. having a game-winning drive in the final seconds of the game. Because if you guys remember C.J. Stroud's rookie season when he played against Baker Mayfield, C.J. Stroud had a game-winning drive against Baker Mayfield back in 2023 with the final seconds left in the ball game. So this won't be the Super Bowl matchup, but I would love it, because I wish these two teams were in the same conference. I wish they played each other more often. That was a really good game that we've seen between the Bucs and the Texans. But that is my NFL Week 2 summary and recap of the biggest headlines, the biggest injuries, the biggest games that we've seen from Week 2 of the NFL season.